5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Diary of a Kidney Warrior. Sharing faith, knowledge, hope, and love.
Hi and welcome to Diary of a Kidney Warrior podcast. My name is Dee Moore and I am a stage 4 kidney warrior. This podcast is dedicated to encourage, educate and inspire as we explore all aspects of kidney disease, chronic illnesses and health. If you have any questions or ideas for future topics you would like me to cover, please do get in touch with me on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter using the handle Diary of a Kidney Warrior. In today's episode, I am bringing you the second in a series of warrior women stories. Now, there's always something you can learn from someone's story, something that can bring inspiration and hope. My guest today from Manchester, England, is multiple chronic illness and stage 2 kidney warrior, Eddie. Eddie is a 40-year-old wife and mom and describes herself as a strong believer in exploring diet and exercise as a way to help improve quality of life and outcomes to chronic illnesses. Welcome to Diary of a Kidney Warrior, the podcast. How are you doing today, Eddie?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks very much for inviting me on. I'm quite excited to share my story with people.
And you're very welcome, and thank you for sharing your time with us and your journey. So I'm going to ask my first question. I know that you have more than one chronic illness, but how did your kidney warrior journey begin, and how were you diagnosed?
It started in 2017. I have fibromyalgia, so I was under a rheumatologist and I had a routine blood test in December 2017 as a part of that appointment, and I got a letter just before Christmas that same year saying not to worry, but your eGFR is quite low. It's 67. It's not normally what we'd expect to see in someone your age, so we're going to ask your GP to follow it up, but don't panic, it'll be fine. So like most people do, I just ignored it. And then in January 2018, I went to my GP for something else, and they were like, "Oh, we've got this blood test back. We want you to have another test." Didn't say what it was for, didn't really explain anything. So they sent me for another test, and this time it came back about 57. So they said, "Oh, wait, no, you've got to go for another test." And tried another one, and it came back the same, and they advised me, make sure you're hydrated, make sure you've not ate too much protein the night before, because that can give you a false reading. So I did all those things, and I had a third test, and it came back in his 50s again. So that was going on. And then what happened was, I think by the time we got all them 3 tests done, we were at the end of March, and right at the beginning of April, I was due to go back to see the doctor, but I had to make an emergency appointment because I had really bad headache and I'd taken my blood pressure and it was really high. So I went to see my GP that morning. I got an emergency appointment and she sent me to the hospital, and I was admitted because my blood pressure was, very, very high. They did tests, I had scans, I had an ECG, I had a lumbar puncture, and they couldn't find why my blood pressure was so high. No one picked up about the kidneys at that stage, but they sent me home and they said, "You've got to go and see your GP, you need to start taking medication for your blood pressure." At the same time, I didn't know this, but at the same time that the doctor had sent me to the A&E, she'd also referred me for an ultrasound in the community for my kidneys, and that was on the back of me keep having this low eGFR. So I think it was a couple of days after I come out of hospital for the hypertension that I had a ultrasound, and it was quite painful when I had it done, and the lady who did it just said, "Oh, your GP will be in touch soon." And I think it was maybe the next day they came back and said that I got something called hydronephrosis and that it was moderate and it was on both kidneys. So I went to see the doctor. This was all in the same week. I went to see my GP, and my GP said, he drew all these pictures for me to explain what it was, and he said basically I've got this condition called hydronephrosis, and that meant that my kidneys weren't letting the urine out. So, and that was what it was making them grow in size, and that possibly could be what was causing the low eGFR, which would cause damage to my kidneys. So at that point, he didn't really kind of know what would happen. He said, well, we'll refer you to a nephrologist and we'll refer you to a urologist. And then he said, you might have stents, or they might do a nephrostomy, and said that was like a catheter almost that comes out your side, which really scared me. The thought of having like tubes out my back, because I was quite active. I did, exercise classes, so it was all a bit sudden and a bit of a shock. So they referred me in April 2019 to a nephrologist and urologist, and I didn't see anybody until I think it was July 2018. I saw the nephrologist, and she just basically said, your eGFR is not low enough for me to see you. There's not really much I can do. It looks like more of a mechanical issue with your ureters. So she discharged me. She said, because it was at a different trust than the urologist, just because of the availability of specialists at that time. And so they said, I'll discharge you and I'll ask your urologist to refer you to a nephrologist at a later date, should your eGFR come down further and you sustain more kidney damage. And that was that from her. So no advice, nothing at that point. And then I saw a urologist in 2018. He basically said, well, the only thing we could do is possibly look at putting stents in, or we can just leave you. We'll watch and wait. But by that point, I was getting quite a lot of back pain, flank pain. My tummy was swelling up. It was keeping me up at night because the urine only seemed to come out. I'd kind of go all day, and then I'd maybe stop passing urine about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then won't pass again till maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. So my sleep was disturbed. So I asked them to try the stents just to see if I could get some relief. They were put in October 2018. So I had a stent in each ureter. That's done under general anaesthetic, and they had a little look via a cytoscope just to check that there was nothing else there that they needed to know about. Fortunately, that came back clear. They just said, they put the stents in. They were then taken out in December 2018. By the time I had them taken out, I think I'd had 3 infections, 3 urinary tract infections that I tracked up to my kidneys. So we had them taken out. The main rationale for it was that it wasn't really changing my eGFR, it wasn't improving anything, and it was kind of making things worse because of the infections. So they said, right, well, we'll take them out. So they took them out in December, and then he said, well, we'll see you back in March, end of March, for a renogram, just to see how your kidneys are, if anything's changed. Because apparently sometimes when you have them in, they can stretch, and it rectifies the problem. So I went back in March, and again, my kidneys on the renogram, that measures, just for anyone who doesn't know what that is, that they inject dye into your kidneys, and it measures the rate at which it lets your urine out. So if there's any kind of delay, it suggests that maybe there's an obstruction. Now, for most people, that could be something like a kidney stone, but in my case, all the kind of investigations had shown that there was nothing physical obstructing it. It was just that the ureters, there was something in the way they were built, or it might have been in another organ pressing on it. So they were satisfied that they couldn't take anything out to improve the flow. At that point, I was just getting a bit kind of demoralised by it, because I felt like such a long time had gone on and I was still in a lot of pain, and the urologist that I had just really wasn't explaining what was going on and what I could do, and I felt that maybe there was more information I could have been given on how to look after myself. I come from a medical background, and I was just a bit alarmed that no one was telling me anything about my kidney care. So I went to my GP, and because my eGFR hadn't got any better by this point, it was still like low 50s. And I just said, can I have a second opinion, because I'm just a bit concerned? And he agreed and said, yeah, sure, we'll send you off. So that was in April 2019, and in September 2019 I saw a new urologist at a different trust, and they were fabulous. They were like, yeah, this is no way to live your life, you know, pain every day, you know, it's really impacting on my sleep and my well-being. So they said, well, what we just need to do is do our own venogram, just so we definitely know before we refer you to a different trust for the pyeloplasty. We just need to check that's fine. So, and there's still a problem. So they did a venogram in 2019 in December, and it was the worst it had ever been. It was really, really slow, and it took several hours after the actual procedure for it to drain completely. So they said the only option I had, if I, in terms of trying to get relief from it, was you could put stents in the interim, but the long-term solution would be something called a pyeloplasty, where they cut part of the ureter that was blocked or kinked or scarred, and they cut it away and then resection the ureter back into the pelvic junction. So they said that they probably need both that doing on both sides, and that there was this trust in the northwest that do it by laparoscopic surgery, and the outcomes are often better when you've got that rather than major surgery. So they referred me to this other trust, and then we went into lockdown. They phoned me in lockdown and said, well, we're going to put you on a list, and as soon as things kind of settle with COVID, we're going to do a right-handed pyeloplasty. So we're going to do that for you. Before we got to that point, I'd actually then needed emergency stents put in because things were getting too painful. So I was seen by somebody, and they gave me these stents. And again, they had no explanation at the emergency department why my kidneys might not be working properly. And I still don't have a full kind of explanation today, but I was very fortunate to get a phone call in July of this year telling me that I could come in the next week to have my pyeloplasty. So I've now had a right-sided pyeloplasty. That was about 6 weeks ago. Currently got stents in both kidneys. I'm having them out on Friday this week, and we will see whether my kidneys are, whether it's worked. And as for my left kidney, we're going to see in the next renogram how that's doing and whether that will need doing now or at a later date. So it's been for me. It's not like a lot of the kidney journeys I see, because it's not kidney disease as you read it. It's kind of kidney disease as secondary to a kind of more mechanical problem. But yeah, so that's my journey. That's how I ended up as a kidney patient. Not many answers, but and there's not much information out there about it. But yeah, that's my journey. It's a bit chaotic, but it has been. It's kind of been passed from one pillar to post. People saying, "Oh, I'm not sure what's wrong with you. Go somewhere else," But yeah, so at this present time, my kidneys are at kind of stage 2 to 3, just depending. There were stage 3 before I had stents in, and then the stents improved the function up to the kind of lower end of stage 2. But yeah, I've been told that, this, the pyeloplasty might kind of relieve it, but it probably won't kind of fix it, I won't get my kidney function back. So, but yeah.
Definitely have been through a lot, having so much to deal with and really going from one specialist to another. But well done. I have a saying that we have to be our own health manager, and for you to have the courage to say, you know what, I want a second opinion, and then what has come from that, is really admirable and well done. It takes great strength and courage to do that. So yes, you truly are a warrior by doing so.
Thank you. I would just encourage anybody listening to this. Obviously there are sometimes situations in your clinical care that you might feel it's wrong, but with the best will in the world, the doctors are right. But it's always just worth asking. Sometimes we are wrong. Sometimes we think our care is wrong because we're frustrated. But it's always just worth asking, because any decent clinician won't mind you just questioning it. If it just means that they just need to give a further explanation, then so be it. But it is worth, if something feels wrong, or you feel like, you're not really getting the care you should do, it's just worth asking that question. It certainly opened the door for me in terms of where we are today.
That's really good advice. So my next question is, what is the one thing you wish you had known when you were first diagnosed?
I wish I'd known the link between blood pressure and kidney disease. They treated, so my urologist, the urologist treated it very separate to my kidney disease. My GP approached it as, we think this is interlinked. You had low blood pressure before, now you've suddenly got high blood pressure, and you've got this problem with your kidneys. So it was quite difficult. So at first I didn't realise the very kind of close link between the two. But I wish I'd known how important it was to regulate and make sure your blood pressure is within safe kind of readings, limits. I wish I'd known that things like, because I smoked, and obviously we know the breathing kind of implications and cancer, but I didn't think that might affect my blood pressure and my kidneys. I quit smoking as soon as I got that very first reading, right back in 2017. I quit on the day I got the information. But things like too much caffeine, too much salt, not eating too much protein. So back in the day, I was one of the keto kids. I loved my high protein, fasting, doing exercise without drinking water properly, doing your dry exercise, all these kind of fads. And I didn't realise what impact they could have if you've got a kidney problem. So I just wish I was more aware of how to look after your kidneys, because I feel like that information's not there. I feel like you only access that information once someone tells you there's an issue and you actually go looking for it. It's not like, don't eat too much sugar, you might get diabetes. Everybody knows that, it's on everything. But kidney disease, not as much. I don't think people realise, and I certainly didn't.
Has having kidney disease affected how you see yourself as a woman?
Yes. So this is quite personal, but I'm happy to share it because I think we should normalise it. And I've done this on the internet before with somebody who's had ureteral stents. So, stents can cause things like incontinence, bleeding, infections, urine infections and soreness. It can make sexual intercourse uncomfortable. So for me, the first time, because I've had stents, this is my third set of stents now. For me, at first, it really affected my kind of my well-being. I did feel a bit less of a woman because it didn't work, and certainly with the continence issue, kind of worrying that if I didn't get near if I wasn't near a toilet, I think maybe every 20 minutes at first I had to go to the toilet because it gives you kind of frequency and urgency, and kind of it's quite disempowering. And in terms of kind of how I feel about my body, I felt like I didn't have control over it, and I felt like I'd suddenly gone from what I thought was like a young person to someone who kind of needs tenor lady overnight, So it was quite hard to deal with. One positive thing though that's come from it is that I've put diet culture behind me. So obviously when you've got problems with your kidneys and your blood pressure, doing the latest fad diet or bowing down to the pressures of society about what your body looks like, it kind of becomes insignificant and seems a little bit kind of selfish to kind of worry about those things. I've got a son, and suddenly I just need make sure that I was there for him and that my body was as healthy as I could make it. So one nice thing is that I accept my body for what it is, and I'm free of all the diet stuff and image stuff, because I just think, well, this is me now, and I just want to make the most of this lovely body I'm in.
That's wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful. Self-acceptance is powerful and very healing as well. So how did you begin to to change that? Like when you were beginning to feel that way and then move towards the positive, what would you say was the turning point for you that got you to move on?
So I, at first, I had maybe for the first couple of months after diagnosis, right back in 2018, I had a few months where I had an internal kind of conflict about I want to eat really high protein, and I want to do all this kind of, I want to have 10 coffees a day or whatever because I don't want to put on weight. And I had this kind of, because I couldn't do what I wanted to do, I couldn't intermittent fast and I couldn't do all these things while still keeping myself healthy because I needed to make sure I had proper intake. I suddenly sat down one day and I just thought, what am I doing? Why am I worrying about weight loss and what my body looks like when it's falling apart around me? Because at that point, my blood pressure wasn't controlled because it took quite a long time to get that under control. My blood pressure wasn't controlled, my kidneys were getting worse and worse. And there was me worrying about like my protein intake, my macros. And I just suddenly thought, what am I doing? I just need to relax. I need to do a bit of reading up about how to keep myself healthy. And then in beginning of this year, I decided to make an Instagram account for myself, like for this journey, to keep it away from, it's not that I'm excluding people from work or friends, but just some people don't need to see it or they don't want to. And what I found was quite a few kind of body positive type accounts where, looking at people that had operations or devices or people with bladder problems or bowel problems. And I suddenly thought, well, if they can love themselves, I think I can love myself with these 2 stents in because no one can see them. And I was just like, why am I kind of getting so wound up about it? And yeah, so I know a lot of people say social media, has its negative points, but for me, it's helped me love myself. It's helped me come to terms with things through seeing other people and being empowered by other people that I see online that are, going through challenging times with their health, but are loving the bodies they're in.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. The power of social media can actually be a positive thing. That's wonderful. I think sometimes social media does get a bad rep, for putting negative pressures on people. But the flip side of it is it also, as you've said, can open up wonderful, people being able to see their body in a positive light and being able to move forward. So that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
How has your illness impacted your family?
Significantly. So I have a son with additional needs, and I have a husband of 10 years. I work full time, and it's a desk job, so I'm able to do that, without, it doesn't impact me that much. I struggle traveling. When the stents are in, obviously, I work in Manchester, which is it's quite a significant commute in on public transport. And there were some times when, I was worried I'm going to have to get off the bus because I might have an accident, or sometimes the painkillers that I was given for my flank pain would make me feel sick, and I'd actually have to get off the bus and vomit before work, get back on a bus and just brush off and get back to it. The people I work with are quite used to me just going having a minute where I've been sick, or I've just felt kind of, the pain's been bad and I've just got to kind of get myself back together again. In terms of my home life, obviously, I've had to explain to my son, he's old enough to understand, but I've had to explain, Mummy can't do this and Mummy can't do that. And, on the days where I've been really fatigued or in a lot of pain, it's impacted on my ability to be able to do things with him. I can still care for him, but, sometimes if he wants to go trampoline, and Mummy can't always do that without, being scared of having an accident or, being in a lot of pain afterwards. My husband has had to pick up quite a lot of what would traditionally kind of be roles that mum would do. He is very much the carer of our son now, and I'm kind of the breadwinner. But that's how we've managed to work it, because he does have to do a lot of the heavy kind of stuff because I can't do it, because of the pain that I'm in or the fatigue I've got. So my husband's amazing. He really is. I'm so fortunate. But yeah, it does have a big impact. And I'm sure, he would say it must be difficult for people around me when I go in for these operations or the A&E appointments I've had where they've rushed me in and he's not been able to stay with me because he's got to be home for our son. And my son also, trying to explain when I'm not there because he likes his routine. It can be really disruptive, but I'm just really lucky that I've got people around me that are supportive, and my son's school are really good. Like, we told them about it, and they're really good at kind of trying to help us and support us through it, because it's not finished yet. We're only halfway, and I don't know whether I don't know whether this has worked, this most recent operation. So, that kind of weighs over you and every day. But we just try to take it with a smile and, just focus on the day-to-day things. And like I said before about it kind of setting you free with having an illness like this, sets you free with the kind of materialistic things that don't really matter anymore. It also makes you appreciate just the day-to-day stuff. So, I kind of, all this time that I've maybe, if I've been resting or staying in or if I've been off sick, I've just kind of, learned to just enjoy time with my family and just the simple things, which I feel really blessed for.
That's wonderful. Just I'm like searching for things to say, but what I want to say is that is wonderful that ultimately people are the most important, and our family are the most important, our loved ones are the most important, and so I'm really happy that you have that support, and that's really nice to know.
Thank you. I think that, although, the kidney disease and kidney illnesses and any chronic illness can be life-changing, in my case it's changed it, but on some point it's for the better. It's made me slow down, it's made me realise what's important in life, and made me kind of change my priorities, which, I think was a good thing. Absolutely.
What advice would you give someone who's just been diagnosed with kidney disease?
Take ownership. So try not to panic. There's a lot of information out there, but the information can sometimes be just about the end stages, and that can be really, really frightening. One thing I did was just, again, through social media and through, the internet, was that I just read up on information. I wanted to see people like me, or people that were further on in the journey than me, to see what it looked like. Just familiarise yourself. So, because it all seems, in black and white, it all seems so daunting. And yet when you go and look on social media or on the internet, or even in, kidney charity publications, you see people like you living their lives, not letting it get on top of them, So my advice would be to have a good look, find someone, find people that you can relate to, and look at what they're doing to manage it. And also, don't be afraid to ask for help, because the mental health side is an impact that you don't really see a lot on, but I think it's really significant because it's quite a lot to take in, and especially when you get diagnosed, you don't know how quick anything will be. Some people's journeys from diagnosis to the point where the kidneys fail is really, really quick. Some people it can last over a lifetime. So for me, I just think if you're struggling with your mental health, find somebody who knows, and or find an organisation that deal with people who have kidney problems, and just talk to somebody. Don't bottle it up. But yeah, there's lots of people still living their lives and still being fabulous and doing wonderful things. So don't think it's a life sentence. There are you can still live your life. You've just got to kind of tailor it to you.
That is fantastic advice. Thank you. What are the best resources that have helped you along the way?
So I have been to Kidney Care UK. I signed up for one of their publications. I followed them on social media. I've used the internet to look at their website. I've used Kidney Research as well. and I have, from there, I've got information about, although my stage, the stage that I'm at, I don't particularly have to have a very, very regulated specific diet. There is lots of information there about how to live your life and the kind of things that you put into your body, how to be more kidney friendly. And I think that has been the most important thing, because in all this time, my kidney function never bottomed, so it dropped really quickly, but then we've kept it nice and stable. And I really think that's because I got my blood pressure under control. I kind of was really mindful and learnt about what kind of things can put strain on your kidneys, and tried to adapt my diet around that. So I had a read about renal diets. Obviously, you shouldn't take on a diet without checking with the GP. Make sure that someone professional can help you. But I went to my GP and said, is this right? If are these too much protein, does that put a strain on it? Or too much salt, does that damage your kidneys? Unregulated, diabetes, that kind of thing. I asked him all about it because I just wanted to know everything. And he said, yeah, that's right. You could do with not drinking, not smoking, be very mindful about what you're eating and your salt intake, and make sure you take your medications and you exercise regularly. And I did all those things. And I mostly got that from across the two charities. In terms of day-to-day living and tips, I'm afraid the only place I could get that was social media. I think there's a big gap in how to do kidney disease, kind of advice for people. It kind of, I just find that there's just nothing there that tells you about the day-to-day workings and how to look after yourself. There really isn't much there. But yeah, through social media, I found people like yourself that were improving their well-being, and your fitness challenge that you did. That's how I found you. You exercise for 10 days, doing something every day. It really inspired me. And, I read up on your profile. I've read your article in Kidney Care UK in their publication. And it's, I found I've got as much from people like yourself from social media as I did off the charities. So I do think there's a bit of a gap there. And it's a shame because I'm privileged enough to be able to access social media, and I can access that when I want to, but not everybody can. So I do think there is a little bit of a shortfall. And I certainly would advise anybody, if you can't access that and you want some advice, to ask, maybe contact one of the charities and see whether they can signpost you to anywhere.
Thank you. Do you have a final word for our listeners?
Just keep smiling. I take it, I'm probably one of the happiest patients when I go into hospital. I think you've just got to, you've got to take charge. Don't let the illness happen to you. Just kind of don't let it take over. You're still the same person. And just take charge and you own it rather than the other way around. You've got to keep smiling, never give up, and just don't ever underestimate the power of exercise. Even if it's chair-based exercise, that's how I started, doing weights in chairs and yoga in chairs. Just do something, move your body, because you've really, really got to look after your mental health when you've got a chronic illness. And I just can't emphasize enough how important that is overall, because if your mental health's not in check, then everything else can just sometimes seem too much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your story and so much really, really good advice. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for listening to part 2 of Diary of a Kidney Warrior podcast Warrior Women's Stories series. And don't forget that you can contact me on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter using the handle Diary of a Kidney Warrior. Please do subscribe to the podcast and please do tell a friend. The next episode of the Warrior Women's Stories series will be released on Friday. Until next time, take care and choose to live.
Diary of a Kidney Warrior, sharing faith, knowledge, hope, and love.